Hello everyone. Today I'm going to do a video on a Frigidaire Gallery 8 cycle heavy duty large capacity front load washer. This machine that I have here. Now I know, well, my issue with it currently is that it doesn't, the drum is no longer turning, it's no longer agitating the clothes or spinning the drum anymore. So I'm going to test three separate systems on this. That is the drive belt, the front door switch, and the motor. Those are the three things that most commonly cause this problem. If neither, or if none of those three things fix it, I would say at that point, guys, call somebody to have a further diagnosis of the machine. It could be something like a control board or something else, which is beyond the scope of what I can do in this video. Okay, I also know that the Frigidaire Gallery was rebranded as a Sears Kenmore system. So I'll put a picture of the front of this machine on the video here for you guys, and you know, basically if it looks the same and it says Sears Kenmore, more than likely it's the same machine. Frigidaire sold them under both you know, Sears and Frigidaire, so you know, you're in luck if that's happening. And I will put a link to all the tools and parts that you may need in the video description below for you guys to reference. And again, make sure that it's any parts that you order will fit your machine. Okay, so next I'm going to show you the information sticker on the front door, just so that you guys can, you know, see if yours is exactly the same. And then from there we'll start troubleshooting the belt first, and then front door switch, and then of course the motor. There's the model information for this washer, so that you can cross-reference it with your own and see if it's the same. Next, we're going to troubleshoot the drive belt. First thing to check when you're having an issue, or you think you're having an issue with the door lock mechanism, is the door striker right here. If this is broken, if these tabs are missing, or if it doesn't look like this, or it's damaged in any way, you need to replace this, and that will probably fix the issue you're having with your door lock mechanism. Your door lock mechanism requires these pieces to insert into it in order for it to work correctly. If they do not, then it will not work, and your machine will not tumble, will not agitate the clothes, and will not spin. This here actuates the switch in the door lock mechanism that tells the washing machine that the door is closed. So check that first. Number one step. Okay, first thing before we do anything is safety first with everything. We're going to disconnect the power to the unit. You should never work on an electrical appliance with the power plugged in. So let's just unplug it. There we go. And verify that you've unplugged the correct one. I know a lot of laundry rooms or places where you have a washer and a dryer they have the plugs in the same place, so you may be unplugging the wrong one. Make sure you've unplugged the correct one, or just unplug them both, and that way you know both are unplugged. Now, so that's safety step number one. Number two, we're just going to close the water feed lines here, and mine are labeled on and off on top, but you can see that they have a larger tab on one side, and usually when that tab is facing the hose, then that's on, and when it's away from the hose, it's off. But you know, basically shut them off, and we won't be removing the hoses from the system anyway, but just for safety's sake, if you've got an old hose that's about to break and you move the washer and it breaks, you can have water all over the place. So do this and you won't have that issue. Now that we've got the power disconnected and the two feed lines shut off, we're going to check the belt, and that's fairly simple procedure. You've got two screws here on the back of the unit on two tabs, and this is the back of the washer, and we're going to take those two screws out and then lift the lid off and check the belt. So let's go with that, and I'm using a number 2 Phillips here. Careful around the insides of these machines, as you know, they do have sharp edges on the sheet metal. They're fine on the outside, but on the inside you got to be careful. All right, that unlocks the lid from the top of the machine. I'll show you how to remove the lid next. Now also, I know that sometimes these washer and dryer combinations are stacked on top of each other. I'll show you a second way to check the belt without having to take the top off. It also involves removing just 2 screws, but I'll do that after we check with the lid off first. Removing the lid is a basic procedure here. I'm going to lift it up a little bit from the back, about that far, and then we're going to slide it forward towards the front of the machine, like that, and lift it off. And there you are. We've got the lid off the machine. Here we're looking at the rear right corner of the machine. If you look down behind the machine, you'll see a pulley and the belt right there. And the pulley is the silver part and the belt is the black part in the center. Basically, keep an eye on that. And what we're going to do here is open the front door on the washer, and I'm going to manually turn the drum with my hand, okay? And what you want to do is see if that belt is moving, you know, or if the belt is even there. I mean, if you don't see the black belt on that pulley, then you know what your problem is. The belt's broken. But sometimes they can break and stay on the pulley. But if you spin the drum a few times, if it's broken, it will come off. So let's just do that. And you can see that it's staying on there. It's not coming off. So, you know, at this point, we know that the belt on this machine is okay. It's still attached and it's not coming off. And if you want to verify it, you can always just put your hand down there and just, you know, try and slip it off the rear of the pulley, and it's not going to do that if it's tight. So as you can see there, it's perfectly good, and the belt's not the issue on this machine. Now, if your belt, if you find that it's not there or it's loose and it's slipping, that could cause the issue as well. So at which point you should replace the belt. I do have a video on replacing the belt on this machine, so you can see that. I'll link it at the end of this video for you to go to, or you can check in the video description below to see the belt changing procedure on this machine. That's checking the belt by removing the top lid. I'm going to show you how to check the belt by removing the front lower panel, in case yours has a washer or a dryer stacked on top of it, and you can't get the lid off. Okay, if you got your machine stacked and you can't get at the upper lid for the machine to look at the belt, if you remove the lower lid, you can actually check the belt by looking through here. So what's going to be required here on the lower lid is this screw and that screw over there. They're both Phillips screws, so the same number 2 Phillips screwdriver will work. And the panel, once you take the screws out, goes down this way, and then you just remove it. So let's just remove this panel. It goes down, take it out, there we go. Okay, next we're going to look inside here, and I'll show you what to look for when you're spinning the drum manually with your hand through the open door. All right, now we're looking at the bottom we're looking at the open compartment that we just took the panel off at the bottom of the washer, and this is the motor. It's mounted to the bottom left-hand side of the drum from the front. And what we're going to do here is this is the alternate way of seeing whether your belt is snapped or not, by looking to see if the motor is spinning. Okay, so let me zoom in on that. Okay, so now we're zoomed in. What you want to look at is right there. Those are the commutators, and when you spin the actual drum, the motor should spin, and you should see those moving. Okay, so let's do that so you can see what I mean. See that? Okay, so I'm moving the drum with my hand here, and you can see that the commutators there are spinning no problem. Okay, so the motor is rotating when I move the drum manually with my hand. So we know the belt is good at this point. Now if you do this and it doesn't move, then more than likely your belt is broken or slipping, in which case you need to replace it. I do have a video on how to do that. So you know, that's the second way of checking your belt without actually having to take the top lid off your machine. All right, now we're looking at the motor, and this would be the front of the motor if we're looking from the front of the machine underneath that bottom panel. And the wear items on an electric motor like this are the bearings, number 1, number 2, the commutator, which is the contact surface for the electric brushes, or the brushes that I'm going to show you here in a second, and the brushes themselves. And out of those 3 wear items, Only ones that are really serviceable by you are the brushes. But let's just check and see on this one. And if you will know if your bearings are gone, because your motor will make a very loud sound, a howling sound. First thing we're going to check is the commutator, because if the commutator, which is the contact surface for this brush right here, and the other one on the other side, if it's gone, if it's worn through or broken or damaged, then the motor is actually done. There's no need to go any further. Replace the motor. Same with the bearings. If they're howling, then, you know, if you want to get rid of that noise, really the only way to get rid of the noise is to replace the motor. But if the brushes are gone, and just the brushes are gone, you can replace the brush assemblies. So let's remove the right side brush assembly when looking at it from the front. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. Make sure that the machine is unplugged before you do this, okay? And by the way, these brushes will have a certain amount of carbon dust on them. So first thing we need to do is remove the power lead on it right here, and that's this cable here. I'm not sure if it's white or yellow or what, but regardless, this is the brush. So we're going to remove the power cable here. Let me zoom in a little bit more there. There we go, this cable here. So just pull down on it just like that and it comes off. Then there's two screws here and here to remove it. We're going to take those two screws out using my number 2 Phillips. All right, now the brush should be able to come out, and all you need to do is just pull it off the motor there. Let me see if I can do that without being in the shot too much. So just pull it forward towards you, and there it is out. Okay, so there's the brush. And we'll check the brushes after this first check of checking the commutator, because there's really not much point in checking the brushes if the commutator is toast. So I'll zoom in on that so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's a closer view of that commutator. I've got the front door of the washer open so that I can spin the drum with my hand and look at that surface. You'll also notice a little silver mark right there. I put that there with my marker, and I didn't put it on the actual commutator surface, which is this shiny copper section here that you see. I put it up there on the winding because you don't want to contaminate that surface. You want to keep that as clean as possible. So you want to keep that surface clean. So I put that there so to show me when I've gone all the way around. And what we're looking for is we're looking at these surfaces here to make sure that they are uniform and that they're not broken, burnt, missing, or anything like that. So we're going to turn this around by moving the drum by hand and take a look at the actual surfaces of those plates, those little rectangular plates there, to make sure that they're not broken or burnt or charred or missing, right? And so far so good. And go all the way around, and that's why I said why I put that mark there. And I think I just went all the way around. Let's go around again here. And they look fairly good. Yep. That's it. From what you can see there, this commutator is perfectly fine. It's got lots of metal left on it. There's no plates missing. There's nothing burnt. You know, that's ready to go. Since the commutators are good, and I know the bearings on this motor are good because it's nice and quiet. Next, we're going to check the brushes. We already took one brush off. We're going to take the other brush on the left-hand side and off. And then we're going to check and see what kind of wear there's on them. Now we're looking at the left-hand side brush, and what we're going to do is remove it just like we did the first one on the right hand, and then we're going to take a look and see how worn they are. So same procedure again. We're going to remove this little green wire here. Just lift it up and off like so, and then these two screws need to be removed from the actual assembly. All right, so now we've got the screws off there, and next thing we're going to do is just remove the assembly, this thing here. So just pull it towards you and remove it. All right, so there it is. I marked it with this silver just to make sure that I put the same assembly on the other side, on the same side, if I'm not going to replace it. Here are my brush assemblies that I've removed, the left one and the right one. And yours should not actually look like this. If yours were factory installed or properly replaced, they should look evenly worn. In other words, they both should have the same amount of wear on both of them. But these are the carbon brushes here. They make contact with the commutator. You see this one here and this one here. And you can see that I have way more on this side than I do on that side. And I suspect that's because I bought this motor used about a year ago for, I don't know, I think I paid $40 for it locally. And obviously somebody replaced the brushes, but they probably just replaced this one here and left this one on there. So, you know, basically saying, oh, it's got enough brush on it, or I don't know what the thinking was. But regardless, they didn't replace both of them because they should be both evenly worn, and yours should be as well. But regardless, these are sold in pairs. So if you see either one of your brushes down to about this level here, then yeah, it's probably done, because there's only about what 2 millimeters here of extension left. You know, it's at the limit of its extension. See here, these retract, they're spring loaded, and basically as they wear, they just keep pressing forward onto the commutator and keep making contact. Well, at a certain point they get to the limit and they don't press forward anymore, and that's where that one is, and that's what's causing my machine not to turn. Okay, so at this point I got to replace these. All right, and I have ordered a replacement set, and I have them here at my place. I'm going to replace them, and I'll show you the new ones going on. I bought these on eBay for about $18 a set, so they do come in pairs. I also sourced them, I found them on Amazon as well, but they're considerably more expensive there. They're $32 on Amazon. Difference being, physically, none. They're exactly the same. These are hard parts to source, but I did source them finally. It took me about 4 hours to find the right parts. And you see them in the video description below here. I'll put links to them there. And difference on Amazon is that you get them in 2 days, or on eBay it can take you a week, you know, or maybe even longer depending on shipping. So if you're patient and you can wait, you can get them for about 18 bucks on eBay. That's what I did. Or you can order them on Amazon and have them in a couple of days. Okay, so yeah, these two need to be replaced. I'm not going to do what the last guy did, which is, oh, I'm just going to replace this one, and this one has lots of brush on it. And basically, they come in pairs. Replace them in pairs, and that way when they wear out, they both wear out at the same time. So I'm going to show you, put these aside and take my new ones and mount them on the actual motor and test it out. I will still also show you how to test the door switch, because these are not the only things that can cause a no spin situation. The door switch can do it as well. Now, I wanted to add a little note here. I noticed on the eBay ad that the slope on the actual brush assemblies that they're selling, at least on the picture anyways, on the ad, I got them on the right slope here. Okay, the right slope is on the brush should match the slope on this actual bracket, and you can see the slope here is correct in the sense that it goes in the same direction and so on. But on the eBay picture, the actual brushes look like this. Okay, so this part of the note, I'll show you how to flip that brush if you do get them wrong. I did get mine with the correct slope on them, but I'll show you how to do the adjustment of that. Well, basically flip the brush over in a second. But that's first part of the note, is that the slope here on this bracket should match the slope on your actual brush. Okay, so if yours is backwards, I'll show you how to flip it here in a second. That's note number one. Second part of the note here is they sell very similar looking ones to these, but they have an L on them instead of an R, and they're not the same. They're actually different. The R ones, which is what I have two of here, okay, the R ones are the correct ones. Okay, so make sure you get one that says R on the top of it. And the difference is, again, is the slope of this bracket. On the L's, they're exactly the opposite. They slope the other direction, so they will not mount on your on the motor for this washer correctly. Okay, so again, notice that the slope should be in this direction on the head of the brush, and matching the slope on the bracket. Now, next thing I'm going to show you is, if you get them the right ones, which are the R's, right? R for right. And if you get them and the slope is wrong, all you need to do is open them up and flip the brush over. And I'll show you how to do that here quickly. This back portion of the bracket just removes. So you can just hold the bracket here and just lift up the front like so, and just wiggle it off like that, and then you're into the inside brush assembly, or what they call the brush guide. So here I'm just going to pry this out. It's just friction fitted in there, so we're going to pry it out of there and see if we can get it out nicely. There we go, like that. Put the bracket aside. Now we have the brush assembly here with the brush guide and the actual brush itself. And this piece here is really easy to remove. Basically all you need to do is slide this little connector down in that direction, like so. Get it past the slot, and then once you get it past the slot, it just goes to that direction here. Lift it up and off the bottom, and then the spring comes out with the actual brush. We flip it over like so. Put the spring back in, right? Put it right back in there. And the reverse procedure for putting this connector back in there is the flat solid tab goes through the slot on the bottom. So we'll do that. And getting the spring in there all the way first, and then we put the tab through the bottom slot there like that. There's what we have. And then at that point we move it forward through this opening here, like so. Okay, and then once you got it there, just push it upwards, and with the bottom flush with almost flush with the bottom of the brass, like that. And there we have that back in correctly. Okay, so and there it is, the correct slope, and you can see that it matches the bracket slope here. So just basically remove this connector by pushing down, moving it off, flip the brush over, put it back in reverse procedure, and then just friction fit this back in like so, and put the top cover on it. It's a friction fit as well. It doesn't really matter, because once you screw it in, this doesn't go anywhere. So that's it. And now we've got a brush with the slope matching. Okay, so either way, it doesn't matter. Again, it matches. So that's how you correct that problem if you get these in backwards. But if you get an L instead of a right, it's not going to fit. There's nothing you can do to get the L to fit on your washer. Second option is if you get an L bracket instead of an R bracket. Your old brackets come apart the same way this one does, right? The one you took off the actual the assembly you took off your actual washer when they were worn out. You could just take the guts out of the L bracket and put it into the R bracket and make sure your slope is correct, and you're off to the races. But mine came in right, though the picture on eBay showed them incorrect. So these are right. Next, let's mount these back on the washing machine. All right, note this line here of carbon dust, as you can see, and there's two little studs there, and those, well, little holes I should say, and the studs on the actual bracket themselves go into those holes just to help you align it. And then once you've got it in there, it should stay in there without the screws first. So let's put this is the left side, let's put it on. Okay, I'm going to compress it a little bit. It's harder for me because I have the camera in the way. You won't have that problem. There. I just compress the brush in as it needs to be. There we go. So take the brush, compress it, and then you know, fitted on there. And once you've got it into the actual holes, the studs into the holes, you'll see it just stays there. Next we put the screws in, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We got it screwed in there. The bottom one is a little tougher, but you know, you work with it, you'll get there. Now we got to put this little green connector back on the tab on the brush to make sure it gets electricity. There we go. All right, that's the left side on. Don't over torque it. You are actually just securing plastic, so you can break it if you screw those screws on too tight. So there we are. Next we're going to do the right side. The procedure on the left is exactly the same as it is on the right. We're going to compress the brush, the carbon brush, into the actual assembly, and then we're going to put it back in. So there you can see the two little dimples or holes where the studs on the back of that brush are going to go. So I'm holding the brush in here, and basically once I get close I let it go. There we go. And it fits like that. Okay, so compress the brush and then put it on the surface, find the little holes and match the studs to that hole, and then put it in, and it'll hold by itself on its own there. Next we're going to put the two screws, the upper and lower one, in, and then the connector. All right, next we got to connect the connector, the electrical connector on that little tab. There we are. And now our motor has new brushes, and we can test it out and see if it works just fine. I'll do that and show you that, but I will also show you how to test the door switch in case it wasn't the brushes that was your problem with your machine. So basically here we've actually fixed the actual washing machine at this point, because my problem was that my brushes were worn out. But you may have looked at this problem and found that you had plenty of brush left on your machine and it's still not tumbling. So I'll show you the door switch next, to how to actually troubleshoot the next issue that can cause no function or a no high-speed spin on your machine. Next, I'll show you the various symptoms that a defective door lock mechanism will give your machine so that you can troubleshoot your door lock mechanism. So you know the striker on your door is good. So next thing we got to do is test the actual door relay switch, or the door assembly here, this actual assembly, and basic door latch assembly. And basically there's a couple of functions to it that actually create different symptoms in the washer when they fail. Okay, so well, we're going to start here with the first possible failure, and that is the switch on the relay actually going. So I've simulated that by taking one of the contact surfaces off that relay. So now when the relay actually activates and locks the door, it will not be sending the signal to the actual control module in this washing machine to tell it that the door is closed. And I'll show you what the symptoms of that are. So close the door, we'll put it on wash. Nothing. You can hear, actually you can hear the relay humming for the door. And then you try to open the door, it won't open. Okay? Now, it says door lock, that's perfectly right, it is locked. And it is on a wash cycle, so let's just go through the possible cycles it could go. I'm halfway through wash, and between wash and rinse and spins. Let's go to rinse and spins. Nothing. Nothing. Nothing on any of the cycles. The reason being is that the door switch right now is not functioning correctly, and it's not telling the control module that the door is closed. Even though the door is locked, without the relay switch working correctly, which it won't without this part, the control module in this washer will not allow the cycles to start. So you get nothing. You can hear it humming a little bit, and that's it. So that's the symptom for a bad switch on a door lock relay, it's basically that. The door is locked and the machine does not cycle through anything when you turn it on. So that's step one, possible door latch mechanism failure. I'm going to do the next one here. Here's door mechanism failure number 2, and that would be the actual relay failing in it that locks the actual door. So let's test what that looks like as far as symptoms go, and that way you can understand whether it's your door latch mechanism that's causing this thing not to tumble. So let's do this. Close the door, put it on the wash cycle, pull the knob. Okay, at this point, now you can't actually hear the humming anymore, so you can actually hear the relay when it's actuated, but it's not, you can't hear it right now. And obviously we got no action whatsoever in the machine. We can go to any one of the cycles, rinses and spins, final spin, whatever you want. The door lock light will come on, but you know, no action at all. And the real tell is when the door lock light is on and your actual washer is actually engaged, you can still open the door. So yeah, there's a failure of the door latch mechanism when you can do that. You shouldn't be able to have the door light on or have the machine cycle through any of these motions and actually, you know, have the door open. It shouldn't work. So again, you can go to any one of the actual cycles and it will not spin, will not start a cycle, will not do anything. It'll just sit there. And the reason for that is that the machine knows that there's something wrong with the door lock and it's disabled any function in the machine. That's the second failure you can have on the door latch. The third failure is the actual wax motor, and I will disable that next and show you what kind of symptoms that gives you. All right, I've disabled the wax motor. I've actually just disconnected that portion of the actual door lock assembly or door lock switch. And here are the symptoms you get when everything else works. So at this point, the door lock is working, the door lock switch is working, but the wax motor on the very bottom is not. And here's the symptoms that will give you. Okay, we'll put it on wash to start. And you can see water starting to go in, no problem at all. All right. And you can go to any cycle here. Of course, it's got to fill up with water first, so I'll let it do that and then I'll continue troubleshoot. Okay, it's full of water now, and like I said, the wax motor on that door lock assembly is actually been disconnected now, and so I'll show you what that symptom is. But I'll show you how it works with the wax motor disconnected or basically malfunctioning. Okay, so you get agitation. The door locks, no problem, right? You can basically go through a cycle of wash from start to finish. Let's go down here to rinses and spins. And basically at this point, it will continue to rinse and spin, no problem. Okay? But on the final spin, what that wax motor will do is, if it's not functioning, it will not allow a high-speed spin to dry your actual clothes, because that's the safety function that wax motor actually provides to the washing machine, as far as I know. But basically, if you don't get any high-speed final spin on your washing machine, the door locks. Oh, right here it doesn't lock, but I have it disengaged right at this moment. But now it locks, no problem. But if you don't get any high-speed spin on the final cycle, then this is what it'll look like. I'll show you that in a second. I'll let it drain, and then I'll show you how it looks like on the final spin. All right, it's gotten through the final part of that drain cycle, and I'll show you what happens here. It spins, just barely, very slowly at the end. This is the final spin. It should be going full tilt boogie, and this is what we get. So if your wax motor on that door latch is gone, then your symptom will be your door will lock. You can go through an entire wash, no problem at all. But at the final spin, you'll get no speed. You'll just get this. So you won't get a super fast spin that dries your clothes, and your clothes will come out more or less wet. All right, if any of those symptoms happen to your washing machine, then you need to change your door lock assembly. And it's I believe around a $28 part. I will source it in the video description below for you guys, so you can get it either Amazon or eBay. And you know, just go there and follow the links, and you'll be able to find the appropriate part for this washer. Now, I will also show you how to remove the door switch and how to put it back in as well, so that you know, if you find out you do have a defective one, you can watch this video to see how to replace it. Now we're looking at the door switch mechanism, and it's this thing right here. And what we need to do, first thing you're going to need to do is remove 2 screws. But after that, you're going to have to remove this rubber seal right here. And usually it's adhered on pretty tightly. If you've got a sharp utility knife or something that you can run underneath to break the seal, and the seal is between the metal and where the rubber meets the metal, and then basically you're going to cut the adhesive off or underneath it, and then you can peel the actual seal off of there. So let me show you that. I've done this many times now, and I never put the adhesive back on because it stays on solid anyway. And basically just peel that back like that, and then now you have access to the switch from behind. Okay, and you can see here where it was adhered and where I tried to re-adhere it, but it didn't stick. I think I'll use Goop next time. It's an automotive rubber adhesive, but I don't really feel the need to actually adhere it. It doesn't actually come off. Once you put it on and you put the edge of this underneath this lip, it stays on good. So that's one of the things you need to do. Next thing we need to do is take these 2 screws out. They're Phillips, and again number 2, and we're going to use counterclockwise here. And once those screws come out, then you can see that the mechanism gets loose. It's attached by wires, so it's not going anywhere. Next, I'm going to show you how to remove the wires. All right, we've got the rubber peeled back. There's the switch, and the screws are out, so it just, at this point, pulls out. They give you enough wire there that you can see the 2 of the 3 connectors. And there's that one and that one. Don't worry about them. They're not going to go anywhere. They're actually secured there. And I'll show you the 3rd connector after I get the first 2 off. There's a locking tab on the back. All you need to do is squeeze that locking tab and pull out the connector. There's one. There's 2. And the 3rd one is down there. And I don't know if you can see it. I'll adjust this angle so you can see the 3rd one. So there's the 3rd one at the bottom. It does not have a locking tab. It's just a friction click out. So we're just going to pull it and get it off of there like that. And then that switch is free. Let me show you the locking tabs on the other 2 connectors. You see that the locking tab is here. So basically what you would do to release it is squeeze on the back of the locking tab like that and pull it out. There's one. And the second one is got a double lock on it. One in the back, one in the front. So just squeeze them both at the same time and pull them off. Like so. And like I said, the bottom one, it doesn't have any on it. It's just a click type connector. So it just pulls off and pushes back on. Putting it back in, or the door switch or door mechanism back in, is just the reverse of taking it out. So peel the, to move the rubber out of the way, you see the 3 connectors. We'll start with the bottom one, and we'll take the bottom one and put it on the lower white solenoid there. So let's do that. And like I said, that's a friction click fit. It locks without actually having to put a tab on it. So there's that one. Then we'll go to number 2 here, which is that double lock grayish connector right there. And last but not least, the top connector, the black one. Make sure they click in and lock. And you can't go wrong with these. The connectors will only fit in one place. So if it's not fitting for you, you're probably putting it in the wrong slot. Next, we're going to put the door mechanism back into the door where it's supposed to be in the position, and then we're going to screw it in. We'll put those 2 screws back in, holding it from the back here so it doesn't fall back in. but the wires will secure it, so you know, don't have to worry too much about it. There we go. Use our Phillips. And when we're screwing in the plastic, don't over torque it. Just snug will do. Like so. Next, we got to put the rubber seal back on. And that's pretty straightforward. Basically put it over lock the lips over the ridge here, the metal ridge. There's a rubber lip on that seal, so just take it all out and just make sure that you get it all back on. There we go. Seal's back on, switch is back on. Next we're going to the well, obviously my issues with the drum spinning are now over. I'm very happy with the results from this repair, and hopefully you've garnered some help from this video as well. Every item that I listed in the video description below, all the parts, are generally below $30. This actually cost me under $20 to fix. The motor brushes were the issue, but yours may be the door, it may be the belt. Regardless, most of those parts should cost you under $30. All right, that's it for my video. If you liked this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a big favor and click on the like button here in the bottom right hand corner. Give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. It helps my videos and it helps my channel. Also, somewhere here on the screen, usually around here somewhere, you'll see a picture of me, and that picture is a subscription link. Just click on that picture if you want to subscribe to my channel, and after you click on the picture, you get an option to click on a bell icon. That bell icon is a notification bell, and basically what you do is if you want to be notified every time I put out a video, click that bell, and when I put a new video up, every time I do, you'll get notified, and then you can watch the video at your own leisure. Now, just like always, I want to thank you all for watching and for your time.